Just looking at Bristol, curate's egg of a team, what are you expecting?
The most dangerous, the most desperate version of a Bristol Bear that you can imagine. You know, the team that came to us last year in this fixture and beat us at our place and took an unbeaten record, quite a long-standing unbeaten record away from us. I believe they'll up their game physically, which they have the capability to, and they've got these kind of game breakers which they turn to in their style of play that are able to deliver lightning bolts on attack and catch you off guard on occasion and score some like mega tries. So, you know, like it's all to play for us and them. The season is up for grabs in this game.
And we spoke after the Leicester game about the discipline and people just getting into almost like a mindset where they're getting on the wrong side of the referee. Have we discussed this week about just holding on to that?
We've discussed about not doing it again and looked at the pictures that we painted and the discipline or the penalties which were avoidable and in terms of our policy non-negotiable, and what that puts in Matthew Carley's mind, how it paints that picture in Matthew Carley's mind. You know, after the game, the lads felt that at times we might have been a bit hard done to. I'm like, yeah, but we painted that picture, and even in these occasions which we showed, you're appealing when it's clearly a penalty. Like, just get on with it. And there was largely like this wasn't a verbal battering or a public shaming. It was an honest acceptance of what we can do better, discipline first half, and ways of mentality in the second where, you know, our game unravelled and we looked like we were over chasing a game which was 1 point in the margin, 10 minutes to go, and ended up being on many more. So really important lessons learned the hard way, probably at the best time. Better we learn them now than in the semi-final when we get there.
Great. Thank you, Alex.
Thanks, Chris.
Hi, Alex. Adam here. Just a quick one from me. I just wondered how you managed the bus trip down last Thursday, because obviously there was some good news for a couple of lads and bad news for another couple of lads.
Yeah, there's loads of ways you can do it, isn't there? You know, I've been in an environment where we actually made a meeting out of it and, you know, film reaction and stuff like that. We didn't want to make it into anything bigger than what it was, because obviously it is quite big. And, you know, we asked the lads who were in contention what would they rather do, and they were like, no, let's do what's best for the team by ways of our prep. Let's have it on the bus and then understand how we can celebrate or support in equal measure depending on the outcome of selection. And we had a bit of both, as you know. You know, because there's 40 I spoke to the day before, and he's like, look, we've got a game to win, and we have to reframe ourselves either which way it goes to get our heads on to Friday night. And the best way we do that's together. So we did it on the bus together.
All right. Thanks, mate.
Cheers, Adam.
Hi, Alex. I'll just ask a follow-up on George Ford, if that's okay. He was named April's Player of the Month today. Can you just expand on sort of how deserved you think that is and how important he will be for you in this run-in?
Well, we've been in one of the informed teams, and he's one of the informed players in the informed teams. He's probably playing a better brand and style of rugby. It's all court game than what he's played for the rest of his career, which is why it's even more surprising that he doesn't get a look in. But I get that he hasn't played Six Nations, and I'm not on the Lions committee. I'm smarting more than he is about it, I would imagine, because he's just on to the next as his way and what he does so well. So like what's enabled him to get this Player of the Month? He drives the group by way of standards, and this is similar rhetoric to what I've said before. but increasingly so at this time of the season. He just like takes hold of it, like he just takes hold of the group, and I find myself saying and doing less and less as the lads do more and more on field and in the meeting rooms. His decision making to attack or to take best space through the foot has been second to none. You know, what it creates is a very difficult team to defend against, because opposition sides now don't know if we're going to run and they have to load that front line, or if he's going to stick the ball 60 metres down the field and squeeze you. If the backfield's exposed, and invariably I would say, 9 times out of 10 he picks the right option, and he does it with an execution which is also second to none. I lied to that. He's making half breaks. Old legs move fast in the case of George Ford, and it was expressed in the past that the likes of, Finn Smith or Marcus Smith, who have this ability to be a threat on the ball, he's showing that as well. So there really are no holes in his game at the moment, and only strength as I see him.
Okay, thank you.
Cheers, Paul.
Al, can I just, on the back of that, about George, can I just ask a follow-up to that? Sort of on his behalf, really, would your hope be that they clearly have left the door open for Owen Farrell, that's been said, as an experienced leader, he's been around the block, he knows what he's doing, on the basis of him being able to prove form and fitness. If he doesn't, which is in doubt, and I'm not asking anything negative about him, I'm just saying, if he wasn't to do that, would your hope be that George could still be considered for that type of role? Because they've clearly left a space for that type of player.
It's not only my hope, I think he deserves it, Chris. I think he really deserves it. You say what you will about international selection, it is subjective, and on the back of the results that Finn Smith has attained, being at the helm there, you could argue that was the right decision and a good decision. But on a tour away from home, having the ability to pull people together, as I said at the start, Paul, even I was waxing lyrical about George's ability to galvanise a group. I just haven't worked with anyone better, Chris. I haven't, and this includes Owen Farrell. I've worked with Owen. He's one of the greatest. But George, the form he's in, and having worked with them both, yeah, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you pick him?
Thank you.
Cheers.
Hi, how are you doing?
Hi, Tom. How are you doing? Good to see you again after Saturday night.
Yeah,
a little bit blurry-eyed.
Sunday.
Yeah, mine was, yeah.
I just obviously we've spoken a lot about this season, but backs against the wall, it's a must-win game. Home game Friday night. How excited were you coming into work this week?
Yeah, excitement always, because I love the group, and we make it an environment where you wanna come into work. But there's always an anxiety and a pain in the bottom of your stomach about all the hard conversations that are necessary to have after a performance like we had. And I'm not taking anything away from Leicester. I thought they were brilliant in that second half, and they dealt to us clearly. But you've got to get through that so you can get on to the next. So yesterday was a tough day for all the right reasons. Today's been much more positive, upbeat, and today I felt like we've got another kind of knockout game this weekend, and we're fully looking forward to the Bears on Friday. So it's been a bit of a roller coaster Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah, can you give us a bit of an insight to some of those conversations yesterday and what was said?
Well, the players pulled their own meeting, which they do nowadays. I've got no problem with that. It's not mutiny. It's just them wanting to get their kind of thoughts aligned before they come and see us as coaches. They talked about what was coming in terms of the review and how accepting and open they needed to be to that. So that, that's a growth mindset that they're driving. And then you've got to call it, see it, label it, own it, account for it before you can actually say, right, this is how we're going to get better. And they've sat on it for 2 days, and a lot of the things which were quite clear and obvious, like easy fixes, and nevertheless, you have to watch them again and talk about them again. It's hard, and it's tough, because you feel like some of the lessons that we've had to relearn, although they put us in really good stead, it's like, I know we've talked about this, I know we've dealt with this, even this season, let alone the last 4 years that I've been here. But it just shows you that, certainly some of the learns in rugby are cyclic, and every now and again you've got to take, I know it's cliche, but like a good look in the mirror and realise you're not where you thought you were. That was a lesson from Friday.
Yeah, and who would have been leading those conversations?
The game driver or the senior players have a group of 5 lads who were elected for that, and Ford is generally at the helm, but the way we tend to do those kind of reflective meetings is get them into small groups. We'll frame some questions, open-ended questions, we'll get them into small groups of 4 and 5, and I want to hear the answers. So it's a lot more pull than it is push from me. It's like, this is what happened, this is what it looked like, this is what the stats were like. You tell me how it felt, you tell me what the comms were, you tell me how we get better. And that's the accountability and the honesty that I want in between each other, and then verbally in front of the group. So even the young lads that are coming through can see that the best players in the world get it wrong and then account for it.
Yeah, and then in terms of this Friday, you sort of said after the game last Friday that sort of the ill discipline and stuff might have been down to just because it was such a big game, and that sort of players had realised that they might have just been a bit too keen to make things happen at points. How do you keep them a bit more sort of level-headed, I guess, this weekend?
Well, there's nothing like experience, and having experienced that very recently, to be able to help you reframe it the next time you're in that position. And we will be in that position again. If not this weekend, then in the next 3 weeks that follow. So that's fresh in the mind. And the accountability or the ownership came from individually. Like, they thought that the comms on field, the big comms in terms of what next job was clear. But as individuals, either they weren't taking it on, not thought they knew better, but they were overreaching in terms of some of the plays that they went for to try and shift the momentum and wrestle back dominance, when the reality and the easy fix is that you double down on your process and what you practice, and it's collective effort that sees you through, not individual brilliance. So, come back to your question. Experience helps. Affirmation of what you've practiced and what your plan is, that gives clarity and hopefully improves accuracy the next time you're in that situation.
Yeah, of course. And then there's another thing that you've spoken about through the season, about that you sort of think that sort of more pragmatic approach is what wins championships. And sort of with Bristol, obviously they've got quite a sort of key, big identity on attacking from anywhere, and Sale have obviously been scoring, and you sort of think about Reed against Saracens a couple of weeks back, but even against Leicester, scoring tries from a bit further out than we might have done from the start of the season. So yeah, how do you make sure it doesn't sort of become an arm wrestle on their terms, in terms of attacking from depth and sort of throwing the kitchen sink a bit?
We can't control what they do. I've said this before, we cannot control how they use, keep and dominate possession of the ball, which is a big thing I think for Bristol. Like, the talk about dominating the ball and the like. I think we were too pragmatic at the start of the season, probably in reference to our run kick pass ratio. And I think Bristol were, as I stated in the past, probably too far the other way. We've probably come closer together, both teams. Like you watched last weekend, AJ was putting more kicks in, was finding more backfield space than just trying to access that through all-out attack. So I think it'll be a different team, as I said, that we faced in December. And certainly, like you said, I think we've evolved since we last played them. Even though we were decent in that game, I think our ability to strike fast on transition is a threat now for teams as well. So it's difficult to know the way it's going to go, and you can't predict, you can't over prescribe what's coming. You can only control facets of our game that have shown to be strengths over the course of the season and lean into them. That's, our physicality in defence. Like, we need our set piece to be better than it was. We've always got a good kicking game with the effort of the back three and the decision making of George Ford, but layer onto that how well our speed of ball and our attacking options have been at the line. We'll lay that on, and that's the kind of complete game that we're looking to put together. That's where we're trying to get to.
Yeah, and then just finally from me, obviously it's been confirmed that JL's leaving the club. Will there be any sort of thing, because it's potentially the last home game of the season? Will there be anything for any potential more leavers on Friday night?
There's a few walking out pre-game. Have they all been released?
No, we're going to confirm some this week.
Right, so I just need to keep the lid on a couple. He'll be walking out pre-game. Gels, he won't be one of them. We kind of said his goodbyes, haven't we? Internally, and there's three pretty big long serving players who were retiring. He'll be out there before the game.
I think so.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. Best of luck on Friday.
Thanks, Tom. See you there.
See you there.
I think that's us, isn't it? Paul? You got anything? Phil?
Hey, Alex.
Hiya, mate. You all right?
Yeah, good. You?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Like I say, we've got a good bit of work in our belts. Well, that's it, innit, really? I mean, we've got a captain's run now, and that's more only framing mentality, so most of the work's done for us and for Bristol, I'd imagine.
Just one thing interesting, after that Leicester game, given the way the penalty count went against you massively, and listening to the TV commentary, you felt that, some of the penalties were merited, others were harder to understand, especially one at the end, which sort of cost you a point, and in the tight race, could make a difference. You able to talk with the referee after the game, or do you have to wait until the following Monday and do it through Twickenham? And did you do it? And were there things you picked up that sort of suggested you might have been slightly hard done by?
So I have a 360-degree kind of feedback loop to the refs. We send clips, I speak to before. If I can catch them, we have a hot debrief afterwards, and then tend to call them. I'm still yet to call Matthew up this week. I think if you're looking back at games and trying to find instances where you are done to nitpicking on individual decisions as opposed to common traits, you can be looking for things to justify a result as opposed to ways to improve your own performance. I think it makes you very bitter in time over a course of a period. It's certainly like it's someone else's fault rather than internalising things that weren't just up to standard by your own measurements. And so, people deal with it in different ways. I just find it like I've never sent a group of clips through unless I felt that the game itself was determined solely by the referee's decision. So that's only happened once this year, in the course of all those games. The rest of them I've got a very good relationship with, and I think an understanding of how we can manage a game through our pictures that we paint and through the language of the ref on the field.
So that's been your message to the players this week, that it's their problem. They've got to make sure they sort it out against Bristol and in the final week against the playoffs. Yeah,
before you start looking at a referee, look at your own actions. That was the first part of the meeting. Look at the first half. Here's 5 penalties in 27 minutes. Every one of those was legitimate penalties that led to points, or territory that led to points. and then you complain about the back end of the game, but we set him up at the start of the game, and there was whole scale agreement on that.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you, Alex.
Cheers, Paul.
Good luck against Bristol.
Thanks, mate.